Hi guys, this is my tutorial for any percent in Banjo-Kazooie. One thing before we start is any percent is actually PAL only. So if you have the NTSC version, which is the US or Japanese version, you can't run this category on that. If you have NTSC, you can run 100% or no RBA. Any percent you can only run on PAL, which is Europe and Australia, and I'm sure there's some more places that I'm not thinking of. The way to tell if you have the PAL version is you would get a language selection screen that has English, French, or Dutch. If you have that, you have the PAL version and you can do this category. If you don't have the PAL version, you could buy a PAL console or run it on emulator. So, any percent is the category where you beat the game as fast as possible without using cheats. So, that's one of the three main categories for this game. The missed category is, there's a category called Sandcastle percent. I'd actually recommend running that first. It's a little bit easier. Not as many people run it, but it's way easier, and all the major skips from any percent are still in it, so it's a good way to get started. It's easier because there's not as many tricky, jiggy grabs, and Sandcastle percent is a category where you are allowed to use cheats. So essentially, it's beat the game as fast as possible with no restrictions. One thing I'd really recommend is Smasher 32's 100% guide. It's on this page as well. This is a page on speedrun.com. That's where the leaderboard and this guide are, if you didn't know. So yeah, Smasher 32's tutorial. Actually, all these tutorials. Watch all of them. They're great. Yeah, so in terms of what controller you should run with, you want a first-party controller with a first-party joystick in it. So the only issue with that is the first party sticks tend to wear out quite easily. So I actually replace these cogs, sometimes they're called guides. I replace those, and that's what I use in my controllers. It does the job really well. The only thing is it's a little bit scary. It's a little bit scary because you've replaced your own joystick. I'm always worried it's going to fall apart on me or something. But my PB is on a joystick where I replace those cogs, and I'm pretty happy with that time. So, yeah, I'm going to be recording this tutorial using emulator. So I'm using this adapter, so that I can plug my N64 controller in via USB and run it on emulator. I do all my runs on console, but you're allowed to use emulator. So if you do, you should get an adapter like this. Also, when testing out joysticks, it's really good to have a look on emulator and see what your range is like. I'll show that in a little bit. So yeah, having one of these is useful even if you're not running on emulator. Yeah, so there's not a lot of people who run any percent. It would be good to see a lot more. It's just not that popular because not a lot of people have power consoles. Power consoles actually run slower than NTSC. So power runs at 50 Hz, NTSC runs at 60. So another thing to be careful is don't go comparing your times for any percent to times from 100% or no RBA, even if the routes are similar, because they will be a little bit quicker on NTSC. Anyway, the first thing to talk about is probably your joystick range. So I'm running this on a GameCube stick at the moment, and you can see these numbers up here when they come up. They're 90, 91, around that. So these numbers, the left one is my X and the right one is my Y. And you want, when you're holding in a direction left, right, up or down, you want these numbers to be as high as possible. That's how you know if you've got a good range or not. You actually only need these numbers to be up to 64. The full range is 128 and Banjo uses half of that. So if these numbers are getting over 64, then that's good. That's fine for Banjo, just so long as it's comfortable and consistently over 64. The reason these are going so high is because I'm using a GameCube stick at the moment. I'll plug in a real one and you'll see that they don't go quite as high. 72, 65, 72, 69. Yeah, so we see they don't go quite as high, but that was a first party one that went a bit lower, and they're actually better than GameCube sticks. The issue with GameCube sticks is they're a little bit too sensitive. So it's kind of hard to grab notes on the edge of things, because even holding it not very much, you get up to 64 really easily. So you can run this category, well, you can run banjo with the GameCube stick, and there's nothing really wrong with that. It's just a little bit harder to do sensitive movements. When I started running, I was using a GameCube stick, and I got like a 130 in 90%, 120 in Sandcastle percent, so you can get good times with them, but it's best to use a first party. Just make sure that you plug it into something like this and make sure it does go up to 64, otherwise you won't get to the full movement range. Alright, next thing to talk about is movement. So we want to look at this velocity value here. The 0 at the moment because I'm not moving, but we want to get it as high as possible. So you can see it's at 500 at full walking speed. But we have to wait a little bit for it to get up to 500. One way you can avoid that is just by jumping. So yeah, jump and it goes straight to 500. That's a common theme for all the movement in this game. Another thing is rolling goes up to 600, well 599.9 really, but you can see that at the end of the roll you stop. So to avoid that you can jump out of the roll at the end and you'll stay at 500, but then you see at the end of the jump you stop as well. So you want to jump out and flap, and at the end of your flap you don't stop. So that's the best movement before you get talent drop. And what you want to kind of try and do is roll. You want to roll, jump, and flap just before you hit the ground. Like that. Like that. The reason is then you spend less time in the air and you get in more rolls for the amount of distance that you do. Yeah, so that's the best movement for that. With your rolls, I'll try and show it on here. Alright, so with your roll, you want to roll as long as possible. Your legs will go over your head. And then when they're about to hit the ground, that's when you stop. So there, that's about when they'll stop. And you can see with velocity a bit more clearly. So you do want to leave those rolls as late as possible before you jump. Otherwise you're not using the full range to your advantage. Next thing is talent drop. So as you can see, velocity again, you've got this acceleration thing that you have to wait for before you get up to the full 700 with talent drop. So jumping stops that again, but you can see at the end of the jump there's a little slide and then he stops at the end of the slide. So you jump, you slide, and then you stop. So if you keep jumping, you just stay at 700. So that's the best way to move, keep jumping. And it's important to jump when you turn around as well, because you can see even if you're at full speed, turn around and you have to kind of accelerate again. So jumping at the end of that's a lot better. Yeah, so jump, and once you started, keep jumping. Transformations have similar movement with the jumping to get to full speed, and I'll talk about that when we get to those. When you want to get out of talent drop, there's a little animation that you have to wait for. You can actually jump, and if you peck, then you don't have to wait for that little animation. And an extension of that is when you're sliding, if you press B, you just get instantly out of it. It's sort of like a peck, but you're already on the ground, so you don't have to wait for Banjo to fall down. So that's the best walking. Just make sure you jump when you turn around and keep jumping in talent drop. And try and do that flutter cancel with the roll. Yeah. Also, rat-a-tat-tap actually slows you down when you hit the ground. So don't use that instead of flutter. Some cases it's alright, but yeah, basic movement don't. Alright, I think that's all for movement. Next thing we need to talk about is FFM. So I've got a file here where I've got a lot of the moves. Eggs. Not a lot of people use eggs in FFM, but I do, and that's the route I'll be showing in this. Talent shot, no gold feathers. No flying, that's kind of hard to show here. You still do want beak bomb and like every move you want, except for red feathers and gold feathers, and all the other categories you don't have eggs, except for Sandcastle percent. The way that how I've got these watches here, I'm using something called ScriptHawk, which runs on the emulator BizHawk. I'll put a link in the description. We'll mainly be using it for watches, but it's kind of useful because it's got a little feature here that I can just click a button and be warped to where I want to go. It's got a lot of other uses too. It's such a useful tool. So I'll link that in the description too. Yeah, it's kind of cool. You can. Anyway, that's just emulator stuff. Obviously, you wouldn't use script talk in a run. So yeah, FFM. What the glitch does is it lets you take the moves from one file over into another file, which in our case is a new file. So it's considered New Game Plus. All the time that you spend setting up FFM isn't timed in the run. And yeah, all it does is let you start with all the moves that you want. We don't get red feathers and gold feathers because Bottles gives you a recharge when he teaches you them, and we want the recharge for this. I personally get eggs because it's a little bit quicker to get through Mumbos without having to backtrack, and you don't really use that many eggs in this category. So yeah, what you want to do is get all those moves, don't get red feathers and gold feathers, get 765 notes, and get up to Furnace Fun. That's what you need to do for the setup. Make sure you grab all the jiggies that you can because it's really tight to get those without the moves. I like to get 810 notes just so that I can use this file to practice Door of Grunty, which we'll get to later. The runners have sort of play around thing to do here. You've got to lose all your lives before you do the glitch. So I've got 3 lives at the moment. Yeah, I got 3 lives at the moment. So the runners like to try and do this tile skip thing. You can look up tile skip. I'll link a video of it probably in the description. So yeah, it's just a cool thing you can do while you're dying. The point is you want to lose all 3 lives, but you might as well do something while you're doing it. Yeah, the way that it works is you flap under and you ground pound, because when you ground pound you gain a bit of height and you use that to get above the banjo or music note tile. I've gotten it like 3 times and I've done so many attempts, so it's not consistent at all. I wouldn't recommend trying it in a run. Oh, that's another thing. You get moon jump with script talk, so I'll have to turn that off just a second. No, we don't need it at the moment. Alright, cool. Alright, so what you want to do is you have 0 lives and you want to basically get up to a minigame square. You'll notice I'm playing this in German. That's because it actually saves 1.6 seconds over playing it in English. So if you don't want to do that, don't worry, you don't have to. But I just do it because you might as well save the time. It's a bit annoying having to do this Furnace Fun setup in German though, that's why a lot of other people don't do it. But I've translated the stuff that Brentilda tells you from German, which you'll see later, so I'll link that in the description too. Alright, so I got 0 lives and we're up to a minigame square. So what we want to do is go into it and we want to get game over inside the square. So this is good. This is one that we can die in. There's some that you can't die in, so you can't die in the Sandcastle one or Mr. Vile. You can die in here, you can die in Boombox, you can die in the memory game, and you can die in Tip Tup's Turtle Choir too. Yep, so you just mash start here. And little note with the demo, you can actually hold start to skip the demo. So while it's fading in, I just hold start and it skips. You can't do that with the cutscene before the demo though, just keep that in mind. I like to look at another file before I start. I'm not sure if you have to do that anymore now that we have FFM, but I just do it to be safe. So, yep. Straightforward, start the file, you don't need to do anything else for the glitch. Mash start to get past this. And we want to jump. Try and jump as far as we can here without hitting Bottles. If you hit Bottles, he bounces you back. So try not to get close to him. Hold A here. So that's an example of unskippable text. So you can't, obviously you can't skip that. That's where German saves a second in Spiral Mountain. And there's another bit of unskippable, well it's skippable but we want to read it. There's another bit a bit later on. So German saves 1.6 seconds in total. Yep, I was really close to Bottles there by the way, so don't be that close. Yep, so we want to try and get as many of these flutter cancels as we can. If my movement's a bit janky, it's probably a combination of emulator and the GC stick. We don't need any honeycombs because this is 80%. Finish with 5 health and it's really scary. You high jump up there just to save a bit of time. I was facing a bit into the hill there, so it was moving a bit slow. Alright, first trick is bottle skip, so we want to high jump up here. You'll notice I didn't go very far in. There's a good reason for that. If you go too far in, you trigger this cutscene. That's what we're trying to skip. So you want to hold the direction and jump over him. You want to hold the direction a little bit before you jump over him. Otherwise you won't have enough velocity in your jump. So yep, just roll through this bridge. There's another little thing that I forgot to show in movement. If you roll, you can high jump while the roll's still going, and you get a bit of extra distance. It's not used heaps, but it's useful to know. So if you're about here, let's just see. If you're about here and you roll, you won't make it. But if you're here and you roll and you high jump, you will make it. So you can use it to grab a bit of extra distance on that roll. Again, mash start to get past this cutscene. Another way to tell if you have the power ROM is it runs at 50 FPS. As I said, it runs a little bit slower than NTSC, which would run at 60. Right. Yep, so first you try and get all the cancels you can with this roll stuff. It's kind of hard. Just really make sure you don't, make sure you do flat before you hit the ground. Go earlier rather than later, because if you jump it stops you and you waste time. LRB here. And then A. I think I forgot to mention that you press LR and B to skip most text. Some of it can be skipped with B, although I don't really want to go through the game and figure out which ones they are. So I just LRB all the text, except for one, which we'll come to later. Alright, first level's Mumbos. So you'll notice I was rolling all the way up to here, and I don't have any moves. I'm trying to talent shot now, and I can't. An interesting thing is if you exit the lair and enter it, you do get all the moves from FFM. But it's actually slow to do that just because you have to go through 2 extra loading zones. So we go into Mumbos and now we have all the moves. So that's basically what FFM does. So my route's a little bit different than World Records because World Record doesn't get eggs in FFM. I think mine's quicker, but I'm kind of bad at Mumbos, so it's hard to tell. I'm pretty sure it's quicker though, because there's no backtracking. This G is the only one that you can grab in Talon Shot without losing time. So I'll explain that later, but don't be afraid to grab that in Talon Shot. It's because you get the Jiggy text there for the first Jiggy, and you don't get it for any others. Skip bottles text. Alright, so that's all the notes on that hill. It doesn't really matter what path you take here, this is just the one that I do to get all these notes. I'll leave that one because it's kind of close to the egg. I don't know if it's the quickest way, but I like it. I'm supposed to grab that egg. Grab the note, grab the egg, grab the rest. You want this Mumbo token? Mumbo tokens are really tight in this route, so we get a lot of them. Alright. What we want to try and do is fall off this eye and Talon Trot at the same time. It's hard. There you go. Alright, so you fall off and Talon Trot. It just saves the little time from that animation. In this Mumbos, if we go on the green, we'll trigger him. We don't want that because it just loses time, I guess. So you want to weave and grab all these notes. You can walk inside this pole. There's a bit of room there before you trigger him. So you walk inside the pole, grab the note, grab that one. Yeah, you can walk inside the outside poles basically. A good time for exiting Mumbos, I try and get sub 3 minutes on the timer. I think I forgot to mention you start the timer when you click the file, but you probably see that from watching runs anyway. Yeah, so sub 3 minutes I aim for getting out of Mumbos. It's kind of hard though. Just be really careful with that Jinjo hitbox. Something you can do on these huts is, I'd roll to this hut and then jump, but on the same jump that you go to the hut, you want to ground pound the hut. Like that. You can grab the note. There's a cutscene skip you can do here. I'll try and get it. So if you touch these guys at the same frame that you get the Jiggy, which is really hard, you get cutscene skip. Yeah, you can see how hard it is. One good way to do it is like kind of full onto the Jiggy and grab it at the same time. That was really close. It has to happen on the same frame, that's why it's hard. You have to hit the enemy and grab the Jiggy on the same frame. It's possible RTA for sure, but it's hard. Good GG. You just got to be really careful here because you've only got 5 eggs to do it. So I did it a little bit slow there. What you're supposed to do is hit that, move across, hit that, move across, hit that, and then hit that. Pretend I hit that. Grab the Jiggy. A lot of people jump there to grab the Jiggy. Sometimes what can happen is you grab the Jiggy, but it takes them a little while to start doing the dance. It's hard to illustrate really, but yeah, I find that if my camera's kind of facing away from those enemies, then it works. Another thing that's good to do is if an enemy's in your way, you should probably kill one because they cause a bit of lag. Anyway, into tickers. Yeah, so I did everything up there in one hit. The world record run doesn't because they need to come back with eggs. I'm just going to open those watches again. The reason I've opened this is because I want to talk about the slope timer in this game. So, I can probably just show it on here. So we're looking at this watch here, the slope timer. So that's 0 at the moment. When I go over a slippery slope, it goes all the way up to 1. So if I wasn't in Talent Trot, I'd fall off when it's 1. But if it's not 1 yet, I don't fall off till it hits 1. Obviously you don't get to see the slope timer during a run, but it's about 1 second that it takes. It might be exactly 1 second, I'm not 100% sure. Alright, so what we want to do is kind of use this slope timer to our advantage. You'll see even in Talent Trot we slip off this one when the slope timer's 1. So this is a skip. It skips getting the ant in Mumbo's Mountain. So we want to jump out, and when our shadow's over flat ground, the slope timer resets. So we want to use that to our advantage. We don't slip off this one if the slope timer's not 1 yet. So we want to jump out and just get over this one at the last second. This might be different on emulator, so I'm sorry if I'm bad at it. Jump out, get over at the last second. Yeah, so there's a couple ways to do that. You can do it all in Talent Trot, which I'll try and show you here. You can do it all in Talent Trot, or you can kind of peck and roll. So you can peck out of it and bear punch or roll, and that kind of gets you a little bit of extra time on the slope. So if you're bear punching, the slope timer still increases, or rolling. You can jump out of it at any time. So the slope time is still increasing, but you have a little bit of a delay where you're able to jump. It's slower than Talent Trotting, but it's sometimes more consistent. I find Talent Trotting more consistent, but that's probably because I do all my runs with it. Let's see. Yeah. Make sure you grab the Mumbo token there too. It's sometimes you can miss it when you're jumping across. If you can, grab these notes in Talent Trot and miss the ant, but I think it's RNG where they're placed. So yeah. Probably my most common way to do that is I'll Talentra up the first two, or all but the last one, and then I'll peck and roll for the last one. For some reason that just seems more consistent for me, because that last one's kind of hard to get in Talentra. Alright, so this one you can do it in 2 jumps with the Talentra, but it's a little bit hard. Yeah, I had to peck out of it there, but you can make the whole thing in Talentra. Try and do that. If you can't, don't worry about it. Probably the way that I do most is I'll Talentrop there, peck, roll, or bear punch, jump out, and then Talentrop. Another cool thing you can do is right as you hit the loading zone, you can get into Talentrop. If you are being super optimal here, you'd already be in Talentrop. But if I can get it, you hit the loading zone and you Talentrop at the same time. So that saves going into that little animation. Alright, now here's what I meant earlier by you have to be out of Talentrop to grab a Jiggy. Notice when I grab this, because you'll do a little flutter before you get out of Talentrop. I'll show you on the next one with a better camera angle. Basically, you want to grab every single Jiggy out of Talentrop. I grab the eggs and tickers just because we need the eggs, and I grab the eggs here. Should have about 12, maybe 11 if you use 5 on GG. Alright, I'll show off that Talentrop thing. So you grab the Jiggy in, because he does a little flutter before you get out of Talentrop. It's quicker to grab it not in Talentrop. Yeah, it's quicker to grab it not. So try and grab every Jiggy not in Talentrop. You can get away with grabbing the first one in Talentrop if you want to, just because there's text there, so for some reason you don't do the flutter. These notes are an example of something that's hard to do on a GameCube stick, because it's kind of precise. Oh. Alright, I'm not 100% sure about my route for getting these notes, but basically you want to get all the notes, even the ones on this stair bit. Alright, and now we're up to Conga. So if he's banging his chest, he won't throw the orange right away. He wasn't there, luckily, so he did throw it. So if you're wondering why sometimes it doesn't work, I think if I go right now, I don't know. Yeah, if you're wondering why he doesn't throw it sometimes right away, it's because he's banging his chest. So I think it's RNG, it might be cyclic, but yeah, just watch out for that. If you don't hear him banging his chest, you can try and do the fast strat, which I'm really bad at. What you want to do is get on the first switch, wait for him to throw, then quickly go to the second switch, and you might be able to get it in 2 oranges rather than 3. I'll see if I can. Ah, that was him banging his chest, by the way. That's why he didn't throw it right away. Anyway, watch JC Tomo's run. I think that has it. Anyway, roll here and jump over to Shimpy. I might show that in a little bit more detail. Sorry about the save state being so far back. That might have been it. Alright. Alright, you want to flutter out of this tree, and you see that Banjo picks up the orange, like when he goes over, like sort of the line going from here across-ish. It's kind of hard to divine it perfectly, but what you want to do is not have him grab the orange like this. That's bad, because you can see it's slow. So flutter out, try not to get hit by Conga like that. I roll at this bit and jump across. I think there's more consistent strats somewhere, but I find that works good for me. You want to cancel that as quick as you can. And you want to try and jump right next to Chimpy, so you grab the Jiggy in that cutscene, which happened there, so that's good. Jump up here. I don't need to talk to Bottles because I already have eggs. Wow. Yeah, that's another bad thing about GC sticks, you can fly all over the place. So you shoot Conga once, cancel the text again, shoot him. that shot there has to be pretty late. You want to kind of be shooting your second egg, right kind of after he throws the orange, around the same time, but shortly after. So, yep, that was the second shot. Now, to do the quick strat for Conga, you don't want to do that. I just laid this state. Alright, so to do the quick strat for Conga, you want to shoot him from over to the right hand side. Oh, that was too late. Alright. Yeah, you can see what happens if you shoot your egg too early. Anyway, talent shot. Wait for him to throw one and start jumping across. You don't want to get hit by that orange because his hit detection goes really weird when you get hit by oranges and stuff. So you want to try and shoot him like this. The angle's kind of annoying. A lot of people like to shoot. See, I reckon that second egg actually hit him because you heard him. Yeah, anyway, you can zoom in if it's giving you trouble. It's not that much slower, but yeah, the fast strat is to try and get that in one shot. It's kind of hard, so shoot 3 eggs. You have 3 eggs to spare even if you have them in FFM, and try and get him. If you hear the eggs hitting something and doing that little sound that they do, then you have hit him. It's just that his hit detection's being weird. I still don't know exactly how that works, but if you don't get hit by the oranges, it seems to be okay sometimes. It's my least favorite part of Mumbos, for sure. I don't know why I've got such low health, actually. Anyway, so you grab those. Yeah, you wait for him to throw an orange onto the pad, and then you want to go into that spot so that you grab the Jiggy in the cutscene. This next skip doesn't look very big, but it's really important that you get it if you're starting to get some really good times. I should have grabbed that note there. Alright, so what you want to do, usually you just grab that Jiggy, Ginger, you wouldn't stop. You want to spawn the Jiggy, and as it's falling, you want to kind of jump at the water. Not like that. Not like that either. There you go. Alright. Notice I'm holding the Jiggy still. What you want to do is just jump. You can jump and flap. Doesn't really matter. And you heard how long that music took. We would have had to be standing there for that whole thing if it didn't. If we hadn't skipped it. So that's about 8 seconds that you save by jumping into the water. So it doesn't look big, but it is. This is another slope timer trick. So you'd fall off here normally, but if you're quick enough, you just jump straight there. Another cool thing you can do, for some reason, if you get stuck down here, is you can actually ground pound through there. It's kind of a neat little trick if you're doing play around or something. Alright, so that's Mumbos. My summer best for Mumbos is a 6:45. JC Tomos runs a 6:30, so I don't know. I'm kind of bad at Mumbos. Peck out of talent drop before you open the note door. That's the same thing as the jig thing. Like, it just takes a little bit longer if you're in talent drop. Don't worry about Bottles talking to you. The FFM actually sets the flag that says Bottles has already spoken to you here, so you don't need to try and jump around him or anything. Alright, this next room has a little bit in German that we need to talk about. So if you want to do it in English, there's nothing wrong with that. You're only gonna lose like a second and a half, so it doesn't really matter. What I have is a document here, and you can see there's like 9 German answers there. And here's the Furnace Fun calculator. There's a guide to this calculator on speedrun.com, so I won't go into too much detail. But what we're looking at is the first 3 rows of this. So these 9 answers here. And what I've done is I've written out the German translations in the same format. So I talked to Brentilda in German, and it's Not too hard because I just look at the document. I have that open while I do runs. I mean, I sort of know the translations, but you don't want to be winging it during runs, especially since you don't find out whether it's right or wrong till an hour into the run, hour 10 maybe. So I roll into this door. Roll here, LRB to cancel the text. It's kind of awkward movement. So Brentilda talks to you. You need a LRB this one. Then you press B again, and you hold A to make it go fast. Let him a shout. B again, hold A to make it go fast. Motor roll. Hold A again. Malton. She'll restore your health here. You need a LRB that. And that's done. Grunty talks to you in a really weird spot, and I just better put those in quickly. I think those were the answers. I'll probably end up using save states, so it won't really matter if they're wrong. But you can see what I did. Fled him a shout, motor roll, to Malton. And that's the same layout. Yeah, Grunty talks to you in a bad spot there, so it's kind of annoying, but that's just when I do it. You can also talk to her when you do the Click Clock Wood puzzle, if you still want to play in German and don't want to talk to her in German. That, I need to time that. Yeah, so German Brentilda saves 0.6 seconds over English. Do this puzzle, A once, LRB, A again. This cutscene is where I'd usually enter the answers for the whole Brentilda thing. And since we have Shock Spring from FFM, we can just go straight over here and do the Clankers puzzle now. If you're doing Sandcastle Percent, you might end up doing this after TTC. I haven't timed it properly yet, but the route might be changing. Another thing is, there's actually Clankers early on PAL, except it's really hard. It's TAS only. So we don't do it. It would save like a little bit over a minute, so it's just not worth it. I've done the clip RTA for it, so you clip out and then you have to navigate to the loading zone. I've got the clip RTA for it after a whole day of trying. But yeah, just no way you'd do it by hand. It'll be in the TAS though. Anyway, 2 jumps here, and then another jump over. You want to land here, you go straight in. All we got to do is walk to TTC. That was bad movement that I did there because I didn't jump and I stopped at the end of my slide. Anyway, jump up here. You don't want to high jump in, that's slow. Yeah, so you want to be jumping as soon as you enter talent trot. You don't want to hear a single trot before you jump. Alright, I'm not sure exactly which strat I like to do here. Sometimes just walk over to the note and talent trot. Either that or talent trot, then walk over to the note. Yeah, so jump to this one, sometimes slide, and you want to like definitely jump from this note to this note and press B to cancel talent shot. What you can do here is, I'll just open up those watches again. Alright, so we're looking at velocity again. So what we're going to do is get kind of hooked on the pier at the back here and see the velocity increasing. And if it increases enough, you'll... Oh, actually it's Y velocity that we're looking at this time. Wow, this is weird on emulator. Very, very weird. Wow. Okay, that's really different on emulator. On console you can get hooked on the ledge and you'll fall down, basically. You fall down into the water just enough that you can grab the Jinjo, because your velocity is increasing as you're falling. Don't worry about it if you don't get it. You can still just swim and get the Jinjo, and that way you don't have to cancel talent drop. So it's no big deal if you don't get it. Yeah, get these notes, they're awful to get. Fall down here and you want to put 2 eggs into leaky. Make sure you only do 2 because you don't want to waste that egg when we're so tired on eggs in this route. So if you jump off the right corner there with Leaky, like kind of the upright corner, and you do a jump really straight, you'll land in there. I got it this time. You'll land in there, and then you can walk over there, grab these notes. Otherwise, you'll probably land on one of the pillars in the corners, and you would have to drop down and stuff. It's just a tiny little times there. So I grab those 2 notes, quickly flutter, do a roll, and grab those notes, and then talent shot. You could do the loading zone talent shot here, but I find it really inconsistent, as you can see. There you go. Yeah, it's just I don't try that in runs. Also, because the loading zone, when the loading zone is further away, it starts to save less time because you have to walk there. So yeah, that's far away and it's inconsistent, so I don't do it. I get the Mumbo token here. There's 2 ways you can. There's 2 ways to grab this. You can go up and use your ground pound recoil, or what I like to do is just go up and flutter. I don't know what's quicker. I haven't timed it yet. Also, I'm not sure about these notes. The general way to get them is to grab that and slide back. Although, personally, I like to grab these last 2 and then jump. I think that's quicker, to be honest. The old way of doing, though the accepted way of doing it, I should say, might come from when people thought that sliding was what gave you speed, not jumping. Anyway, doesn't matter. Doesn't really lose that much time. So we want to get Blubber's gold. I like to count how many flaps I do in the swim there, just because, yeah, 5 is good, 6 is bad, I guess. I'll talk about whether or not to go on the surface or go underwater, but I like to get above the surface right at the end of my second flap. We learn feathers here. You'll see Bottles gives us 25 feathers on top of our 4 that we already had, so that's why we don't learn feathers in FFM. Yeah, so we want to jump around and grab this Mumbo token here, and then jump here and ground pound. Make sure you jump and then lower a little bit, and then flap and then ground pound. If you jump and then ground pound, you do take full damage. You want to talent trot as you're falling, and that was a quick dive. So what that does is, when you're exiting your talent trot animation, as you're going into the water, it kind of interrupts you going into the water, so you just drop down really far. So I'll get it again. You'll notice I actually wait for a little bit before sliding off the box there. That's because if you do it too soon, then it just doesn't work for some reason. Like if you're holding the direction when you come in, it doesn't work. I don't know, that's a really good trick to practice on emulator actually. You can't make this with a jump, but you can with the ground pound recoil from a jump. So yeah. We talked to Blubber here. He's in a good position, so I want to stand kind of over this spot here. And I'm standing where the G is, so you grab it in the cutscene. Again, I'm not sure if that's cyclic or RNG, but yeah, you want to try and get in that spot if you can. Don't worry if you can't. You get these notes. And this part sucks. I don't know why I did that move. So fly on the fly pad. I hold R. I skipped this note. It's actually quicker. JC Tomo agrees, but there was new struts found. So that was really good. Alright, so what you want to do is try and grab that jiggy in flight. You'll notice we didn't get a jiggy jig. And then you want to fly out. You also want to grab that jiggy in flight. I ground pounded onto it and got the jiggy jig. That's bad. Don't do that. It's just that I barely ever get the flight out of that lockup, so I'm not that used to the movement out of it. Here, I could grab these notes in talent trot, but that actually makes it kind of hard to do this jump here because you, for some reason, can't peck out of it. So I roll here, peck the door. So yeah, don't get into talent trot there. This loading zone is really easy to hit So you want to grab the mumbo and sort of talon trot as you're doing that. You can see I got in there, so yeah, you want to do that. Don't go through the loading zone, it loses quite a bit of time. So you want to jump down and get these three, and then jump across. These Jinjos, they're actually quicker to get on the way down than on the way up. So that's what I do in this route. It's only slightly. If you're used to getting them on the way up, don't worry. 5 flaps here. And then hold up. And it's really inconsistent. I forgot where my last save state was. There. And that can happen a lot on this roof. That Ginger has a really big hitbox, so you can, yeah, you can get that really easily. So you want to kind of face forward. You want 5 flaps and a little bit, and then hold up. You don't always have to turn, but it helps sometimes. 2 flaps here, just so you're high enough to grab the jiggy, and I wasn't. I'll show you the backup strat for this. Like, you just hold down on your joystick, which pulls you back. It's so much easier, but it's also slower. So it's a little bit unfortunate. 2 flaps again if you do that strat. And hopefully I'll get the jig skip this time. Sort of 2 ways to do this part as well. You could jump off this side, get the 3 extra feathers, and then jump across. What I like to do is jump to get the velocity, jump off the edge, peck about here, and get it. But you can see it's a little bit quicker, but it's less consistent. It looks like you're not going to get it when you actually are there, so it looks scarier than it is. There you go. I like to get into talon trot when I grab that note, but the crab's kind of scary. Just really make sure you don't get hit off here. If you do, why did I lose? If you do get hit off from there, you can actually get up here with kind of a slope abuse thing again. Or you can climb one of those trees and just go across that way. Yeah, so there are ways to get up. You don't have to go all the way back to the 3-box stack thing and then get up that way. Again, this is something that's really hard to do on a GameCube stick. This platform is just, the notes are really close to the edge. You shouldn't kill that crab normally. This fall here is kind of annoying. A lot of people get out of talon trot, and I'll just say to do that because I don't have good strats for it. Yeah, I don't know quite about that. Alright, the lockups, I think there's a bit of a misconception that they're cyclic. It kind of is, but it kind of depends where your camera is. So I'll see if I can demonstrate it. So I'm going to go really close to one, and you won't hear it doing its open close thing right away. So I think I'll try and move towards it. And then it only starts its cycle when your camera goes to it. So you see that cycle starts in the same spot every time. It's sometimes a bit delayed, as you can see there. So that's what I mean. It's sort of cyclic, sort of not. And it's not 100% if your camera's on them. If your camera's like really close to them, they'll still go. Yeah. So they're not 100% cyclic. What you either want to do is you either want to get it so it's just opening when you get to it, or just closing when you get to it. So I'll see which one I get here. That's just opening when I get to it. So you want to get 74 notes there and see if you can jump out at the same time. This will be just closing when I get to it. Yeah, so easy, 74 notes, jump straight out. So either just opening or just closing, otherwise you have to wait for its cycles. I have a little camera setup thing here because I'm really bad at these stairs notes. So I'll flip my camera to this part, jump if I can. I flip my camera here, jump not off the corner but sort of a little bit in from the corner. And then I want to try and land on that box. flip my camera to the left once, and it's really nice for those stairs. These stairs notes are just awful. I hate them. You can get both Mumbo tokens there and then jump out. You want 11. Yeah, so for that lockup with the 5 notes in it, you want to get 74 notes when you get out of it if you're not getting the note in the little alcove across from the jiggy. Alright, another quick dive here. I like to slide before quick dives just because it seems more consistent. But what you want to do is slide into the water and just let go of all the buttons. You want to let go of the buttons for that one in the ship as well. I don't think I mentioned that. Yeah, talent shot here. You want to get these notes really quickly, otherwise the crab can be annoying. It's a lot harder than it looks. Alright, here's the last fly. It's bad if you don't have strats, is all I can say. 8 flaps. Well, it doesn't really matter. You just want to press A before you get to the ginger, to be honest. That's not the hard part. You want to go to this alcove, be holding down a little bit after you get, like, the wall will stop you from moving. You want to be holding, well, up on your joystick, which is facing down, until a little bit after you... Alright, that save state was really far back, I'm sorry about that, unless it was there. Alright, sorry about that. I just wanted to show you the flying again, but I guess you get to see all this again now. I really thought I would have saved the state before I flew. Yeah, try not to do that. Ah, I will save the state this time. Yeah, so you want to press A before you get to the ginger. Make sure you're facing towards this direction, otherwise you'll be at a weird height for it and it sometimes doesn't work. Yeah, so hold up here. Wow, that's weird on emulator. Alright, yeah, so when you're coming down to the alcove, hold up to do a nosedive, and then like a little bit after, a tiny bit after you are not hooked on it anymore, like under the roof, you want to let go. It's really weird on emulator. It's quite different. Ah, there you go. And you want to flap like as soon as you hear that jiggy noise. Don't even worry if you slow down. It's so worth it to be safe there. Big bomb here when your camera's facing down a little bit. And then mash B to peck out of it and you should get onto Nipper. You don't actually have to wait that long. But yeah, the beak bomb actually goes to the center of your camera rather than where Banjo's facing. So I'll go into that a little bit more detail later, but basically just line up the center of your camera with the top of Nipper's shell. Try not to be too high, otherwise you'll take full damage. And yeah, you can peck out of a beak bomb, so mash that peck button. Nipper skip, you want to be in talent shot here, and then you basically want to walk off at full speed. This is the only spot where I don't use LRB to skip the text. I actually just press B, just in case the camera goes janky. So yeah, walk off, press B to skip the text, and then you want to jump back into them. Again, you should sort of know what this is, because I'd recommend watching lots of runs. Alright, so walk off, press B. Again, I'll show that slowly. So that's just what the skip is. Yeah, walk off, you want to jump in him. When you jump in him, hold down so that he's sort of facing his face. I'm not sure if you actually have to do that, but I do that. So yeah, you want to hold up to get in him, quickly flick down, and then press B, and you'll peck. Then, you hear my timing there. It's more of a timing thing than a mashing A and B thing. You can do Nipper skip on... You can only lose 1 health while doing it, but it's kind of hard. I'd recommend having at least 3 honeycombs to do it. Just in case, because it's right at the end of a really hard level, and a lot of the time it's hard to get runs up to this point. There you go. So yeah, it's more of a timing thing than a mash thing, and Smasher32 talks about it quite a bit in his tutorial. Alright, so you can do that talent drop thing with the loading zone there. It's hard though, because the loading zone's not very obvious. You can jump between these notes, I just didn't do it there for some reason. I like to grab these eggs just because we're a little bit low on eggs in this route. That was bad. Alright, you want to stand under this jiggy so the crabs get close to you, and then not do that. There you go. So you want to grab the jiggy, and when you're falling from grabbing the jiggy, you want to hit the crab. More on the side of grabbing the jiggy than hitting the crab, because you don't want to die there. Alright, so that's TTC done. Honestly, I feel like that's the hardest level in this route, just because of all those jiggy grabs in flying and stuff. But yeah, you don't need to worry about getting the witch switch jiggy that slow. I'll put actually a list of jiggy times up with this. Next level's clankers. We want to get the red cauldron before that though. Really try not to forget it, because you need it. Saves a lot of time. This pipe, the water's shallow enough that you can talon trot on the side there, but it's not super consistent, so don't worry if you don't get it. LRB again. And try and jump up on this pipe in talon trot. It's a little bit hard though. Grab the mumbo token and then jump up. Not too much to that room. Don't get in talon trot here because you just got to do a high jump. I like to roll through there, it's probably quicker to jump. And roll again, not bear punch. Yeah, I'd say getting in talon trot there is slower because you got to do a ground pound anyway, so you'd have to figure out a spot to cancel it and everything. But yeah. Good time for entering clankers is about a minute on the individual split timer. I'm not sure about the timer overall. There's a lot of cycles in clanker, so I'll have to do it all in one hit. There's a little slope abuse trick you can sort of do here. If you jump right up on the edge, you'll see it in ones anyway. If you jump right up on the edge, I peck and kind of roll. That gets me up there. I wouldn't recommend that at all if you're starting, to be honest. What I would do is jump down here, get here. You want to hold R here actually. You want to get the camera right behind you here and jump as straight as you can at this part. Make sure you jump straight and you don't hit the wall. That's all I can really say about that. It's kind of a hard jump. Thanks for Isotage for teaching me that one. Jump as quick as you can to get these cycles because it really matters later on. A lot of people get under clanker and turn the key and stuff first. I actually get the note pipe first, so I'm going to do that. I guess to see the other cycles, see the runs, but I can't really tell you any more than you could by watching them about them. Yeah, so I get these notes first. I kind of find it less scary even though I get down to one bubble, just because I'm not sure how many bubbles I'm going to need to get these notes on the way back up, but I know exactly how many I need to get up apart from that. I'll show you the quickest strat that you can do here because I had a good start. Oh, alright, I'll show you the slower strat. Alright, the quickest strat is you want to get down here, go left through the key, then grab the note under the key. The one that's a little bit slower is you want to grab this note here. You can watch my PB to see the quickest strat there. Grab those two, you want two, definitely. And then you don't need any more bubbles down here. Be around 3 minutes turning this key. Again, there's lots of those little individual level timer checks you can do. There's one really big one. So this whole level up to this point is about like 3 minutes 30 and it's all leading up to one bolt cycle on clanker. So you have to be really consistent and reasonably optimal through this. Again, don't worry about the bubbles. Each bubble is about 10 seconds, so it looks worse than it is. Do I get it? No. Alright, so yeah, you're supposed to get that. I was a little bit slow going down to the key area, that's why. Don't be in Talon Trot when you come off here. You want to hold back and ground pound about there. So you hit the switch, try and grab the note, because you can do a little jump out of it. So you're in Talon Trot here and jump if you got the note, don't jump if you didn't. Ooh. I'll show you not jumping as well. It's about the same. You can probably jump in between these notes, but I haven't figured that out yet. Just make sure you cancel out, do a peck there. About 3:55 on the individual level timer is where you want to be to grab that jig. So you want to, with this, you want to hit A and hold R so the camera goes behind you, and then mash B so you beat bomb, hold up and mash B again to peck. Alright, there's something you can do learning moves in Talon Trot. So what you want to do is basically hold Z and hit C left to Talon Trot, and as soon as you hit C left, try and click B. Try and be closer to him as well. There you go. Hold LR and B, but don't hold L and R for too long after he's done his text. Otherwise, holding L and R will cancel your Z input and you'll actually lose Talon Trot. This seam here, you don't take damage. So you want to be along this seam and just jut out to grab the notes. Try and peck here to grab the jiggy. Quickest way is jiggy then gold feathers. A little bit about the Bobbles text actually. He usually has two text boxes, one to give you the move, one to tell you it's the last move of the level. And he has a third one if you don't have much health, so be aware of that. If you're low on health, then be expecting a third text box there. You'll never just get one, because we like don't learn two moves in one level in this route. Alright, so you want to just jump out here. There's a little bit of a trick coming up. The most important thing is just keep your camera the same way. Doesn't matter how crooked it is to this seam. All you want to do is jump up on this seam, jump again and flap. I think you can stay on the seam. You can see I won't be as consistent because my camera's not consistent, if you know what I mean. You just want to keep it the same. Don't change it halfway through swimming. So you can stand on here, but you want to jump off as soon as you can. Jump and flap. Talon Trot here, earlier actually. Grab these notes, you only need 3 notes up here. Jump and then jump again. You want to jump as long as you can because it's a lot slower to swim than it is to jump in Talon Trot. Alright, so there was no cycles in there, but as soon as we exit out of here, there is more cycles. So I like to hold right here and jump on his mouth. There are other ways to get up him, but this is the way that I use. You want to kind of be walking on it. Get on this as quick as you can. Make sure you're there before it rises up. So you want to grab all the notes up here. Just be really careful because it's so easy to fall off this part. I don't know why I did that. Yeah, you grab that other note on the way back. Roll off it and then flap. If you don't flap, you'll take full damage. Like sometimes you can grab these notes before you go into the bolt in the first bit, but don't worry if you don't. You can just grab them here. That was the best cycle for grabbing that jiggy because you get the 2 notes before the jiggy, then Clanker's back is raised after you grab it, so it's kind of like you grab the rest of the notes. That peck flutter thing for that grate there is pretty self-explanatory. Another quick dive here. Again, I like to slide. I'm not very good at this one though. Just make sure you let go of all your inputs. That's the main part. You really need to let go of everything to do a quick dive. There's a camera flip that always happens there, so try and let it flip around before you start moving. You want to jump out into the water about here. They're a bit different in where they were because I waited a bit before going in there. But yeah, if you jump into stake. I'll see if I can get it properly. Yeah, that's better. So you want them both to be under you, hit them in 1 ground pound. Don't go too close into the circle, otherwise they get scared of you, sort of. You should use 3 eggs to kill that one, and then this other one usually comes, but he's a bit inconsistent. You want to poop 3 eggs, get into Talon Trot, try and jump up there. There's like a jig skip you can do. You're at that point during the cutscene. So if you can get that good on you, I haven't got it. Try and grab as many eggs as you can. This Talon Trot jump's awful because you kind of need to get up there. Yeah, so you can get to that jiggy before the cutscene starts after you kill your last one. If you poop the eggs, it's just really hard. I have a theory that you might be able to skip it by letting the first time you get a honeycomb text go, but I haven't really tested that yet. So we want to swim to that fin there. It depends on where its cycle is, if you can get up there or not. There's like a little skip you can do, but it's kind of hard. That's a really good cycle. I'd be able to get on that fin and jump there, but I'll show you the skip. You want to kind of peck at the wall. And it's really inconsistent, so I don't go at it in runs. I want to peck at the wall-ish and turn right. Kind of depends on where the water is and where everything is. Has to be perfect, but yeah. This grilled chomper, you want to actually take a bit of damage on him, so get him one, get a second one, spring pad. Just be really careful he doesn't nick you again, because he can take 2 health in 1 hit if he gets you on the way out. Something to do with hitting his teeth and getting you on the way out. But you can take 2 health in 1 hit. But you do want to get hit twice if you have full health. If you don't, probably only get hit once. So you want to jump on the top of this pole, and you want to kind of roll off it. Make sure you jump really early, so you jump out of the roll rather than flutter. Because if you leave it too late, you won't be able to jump anymore. You can jump really early and still get it. Once you enter the falling animation, where Banjo goes like whoa and then he starts falling, then you can flutter out of a Talon Trot. That's the only time you can do that. Again, be careful hitting that tooth because eggs are tight in this route. Make sure you have 98 notes when you finish going around as well. That's really important that you check these note counts. It's 100 in Mumbos, 99 in Treasure Trove, and 98 here. And you want Death Warp. Try not to hit the water as well. Otherwise it does a little bit of extra animation if you hit the water. Another thing that I've sort of been doing is when you respawn after a Death Warp, if you Talon Trot and just walk off and on really quickly, you can get out of the level easily. Again, that was a little bit of a late jump there even, because you heard a trot before I jumped, so you really want to try and jump early. Again, peck before you go into a node door. In this loading zone you can do that thing where you Talon Trot through the loading zone, but it's inconsistent and the loading zone's far away, so I feel that it's not worth it. The main part where you do that is through note doors, the Talon Trot loading zone thing. Land here and you kind of roll, jump, flutter, or whatever. Just don't get into Talon Trot because it's a waste of time. You have to get out of it anyway. Alright, here's another spot you could do it, but it's hard. So yeah, Talon Trot as soon as you open those 2 note doors, in my opinion. You want to jump behind here. I find twisting the camera like this is actually a bit easier, but just do what's consistent. Now time for what I think is the hardest trick in the run. You're going to break that web. If you're new to doing this trick, definitely kill this guy, because he can get in the way, and it's really annoying. This trick will get you into Frizzy Peak without opening it. So you want those 4 feathers just to have a little bit extra. You really want to grab as many feathers as you can, because you need them for Grunty as well. Alright, so what you can do is roll out of here. You want to jump and flutter over here. Try and miss those running shoes, it's a little bit hard. And yeah, Obviously you don't need to go up to where that Mumbo token was if you're retrying this trick. So you can stand pretty close to the edge of this platform and still hit it. I think this might even work. A little bit further back. Yeah, basically your foot only has to be over the edge. It doesn't even need to be on the platform. So you want to grab these running shoes and get to the fly pad. If you're running out of time, like you hit something, if you actually pause and unpause, the timer goes slower. So you can actually do this without even having running shoes if you use that. Alright, so you want to face forward when you fly, and you want to kind of aim for that web. You'll see there's a web here. You can get into a range. You can get between like here where my mouse is and to the left of the web. You can actually get it in a lot of spots, but that's usually where I get. You want to pick out of talent drop before you fall down the hole so that you're facing forward. Try and peck on the ground. It's not too bad with the timing. Just really make sure you're facing forward. You can do it facing back towards for his easy peak, but I have a setup that I use and I find that it just doesn't work with that. So I'm kind of facing the right side of the web here. So the way that I do my setup, I want a little bit more than 7 flaps, and you'll see what I mean. So you want to, when pause, I'm going to be holding R and kind of holding right until I'm facing the left side of the door, which you'll see. Again, that didn't work. You can see this trick's not super consistent. But yeah, so you want to face the left side of the door, and from when you start flying, you want to be counting 7 flaps. Around where you start turning again, it depends where you're facing. So since I'm facing here, it's going to be a little bit after 7. And this part's normally by feel. If I had to give a setup, I'll show you the nav anyway. 4 flaps in your beak bomb, sort of. You just want to get in this door, but we'll do that again. Turn, 8, 9, pull back, if I had to give a setup. But it's a little bit. You want to start pulling back around the 9th flap. It's not perfect. Like, I still do it by feel, and you have to do it by feel, sort of. So the reason you turn around after 7 is to get the angle. The reason you pull back after 9 is to get the height. So the angle is important. It's more important than it looks. And yeah, this trick sucks. Yeah, see there, I think I was facing too far to the right there. It's kind of hard to say. There you go. The bad thing about this trick is it takes like 45 seconds to retry it every time because you have to go back and make the fly pad appear and everything. So it's really important to get good at this trick because you actually have to do it twice in this run. So that's probably why I'm spending so much time on it. Yeah, that was too far back from the slope. Like, I should have been closer into the slope. I kind of want to get a state showing different angles. Again, I'm sorry if you're good at this trick and I'm spending too much time on it. It's just that it's really important to get this right. Now watch me lose all my health. I'll show you the retry setup, even though you'll see it in 450. You want to flap here, sort of, not that early. You want to flap to kind of land earlier, roll off and then jump. Try and avoid those shoes. Again, I'm sorry if my movement's bad. It's probably a mixture of the emulator and the GC stick. Yeah, so you want to just do that to get back there. Doesn't really matter. Yeah, so cancel there, fly out. See, I'm a bit more left this time. So I turned like right on the 7th flap there because I was more left. Yeah. Yeah, so the more left you are, the earlier you have to turn to the right, basically. Yeah, if I had to give a setup, I'd say on the 9th flap, start holding back, but even then you have to kind of be with... This is a really late turn here. I have to turn quite late, and that was far too late actually. Actually, now that I think about it, the more left you are, the later you have to turn. But then again, nothing's perfect. You can see I'm sort of adjusting my angle as I'm doing it too. So... it takes a lot of practice and it's by feel. You get to know the angle, it's around this, and then you just go through. Yeah, it's a mixture of how far forward you are and the angle. It's a really awful trick. It's got to be my least favourite part of the run. Like, honestly, I worry about it more than do a grunty, which we'll see. Anyway, I'll do this last one and we'll go into FP. Alright, so hold R and go left. Use 4 feathers, big bomb upwards. Do not void out here, it's really easy. By void out, I mean go too far out of bounds and it pushes you back. You probably saw that. Yeah, you probably saw me do that while I was doing retries. But yeah, don't go too far out of bounds because you can void out. And don't go back inbounds, like don't go over the floor because once you're back inbounds, you won't let you get back out of bounds. FP is fun. It's probably my favourite level in this route. I don't know why. I get an extra note in FP compared to the world record, just due to route changes. The video for the world record's a bit old. There was a trick found to get some health a bit easier in this level. I had a chat with the guy who did it and he reckons he would have got the extra note in FP if that strat had been found earlier. You want 21 notes leaving here. It's kind of important to have a count, otherwise you'll move a bit further than you should and waste a bit of time. Make sure you get this Mumbo token. Make sure you get every Mumbo token that I get. I'll show you a backup that you can get if you only have 24 when you go to transform, but I'd rather not get that. So you grab some extra feathers here, just because feathers are still tight in this route, due to the FP early and 450 skip. Alright, now there's a strat to get this jiggy that I really do want to show off. It's kind of hard. I don't have a setup, well I sort of have a setup for it. It's like 6 flaps and a beak bomb. The idea is you want the jiggy in the snowman's pipe. You want a beak bomb at the edge of the pipe, and you want to get it just in your beak bomb. The hitbox is big enough that it can sort of go through the pipe and get it. I'll show you the backup strat for sure, but that's it. And then you'd fly up to the hat. Yeah, so that's it. Don't expect to get it in runs. I've got it like once in a run. But yeah, I'll show you the backup strat. Well, the proper strat, and that's the quick strat compared to it, I guess. You still want to do the beak bomb. So yeah, you get to like try to get it every run, but you often don't. Then you want to hold back and not land. Yeah, so you try and get it, basically. And then you want to fly, probably 1 flap's good, and hold down on the joystick to pull back, and then you want to pull back. I should have grabbed the jiggy there. You're going to grab the jiggy and then start flapping out. Just make sure you don't land in the pipe. If you do, there's a fly pad really close by on the snowman's nose. But yeah, You see there, like I kind of went to fall off the edge. You can make a bit of extra distance by pecking back out of talon trot. So if you're ever talon trotting, jumping to a ledge, and you're not going to make it, try pressing B and you might make it. These are another set of notes that are hard on a GameCube stick. It's stuff like this, which is why first party's better. Anyway, so you want to get to the edge of this hat. There's sort of a quick strat and a slow strat here. You can jump off, flutter here, roll off or jump off, flutter here. Or you can do it all in one hit. In talon trot, you jump off, the falling animation starts. So now I can flutter, and then I flutter down here. But you can see why that's a risky strat, because I might not have made it to the scarf. I've lost one run to that, but it's pretty consistent, so I do go for it. I like to get health here. You do need full health, for sure. There's another spot that you can get health further on, but I just get it there for some reason. Grab all the feathers that you can as well, because we still need to do a 450 skip and a grunty fight, so you really need a lot of feathers. 450 skip you want around 16 is the minimum, so make sure you at least have 16 feathers. So I'm not really sure where you could get backups. There's 4 outside just before you start 450 skip, so I guess you need at least 12, but you should have that. No, there's no reason that you would have used that many feathers unless you already got the clip, tried to get into FP, voided out, then you'd lose a lot of feathers. These feet are a good time to check your notes. So you want 70 notes on this foot, 75 on the next. That'll just confirm that you didn't miss any on the scarf. I don't really have a check for earlier than that, which I probably should. But you can tell because you don't hear the note noise if you don't get it, I guess. It's just that when you're trying to go fast, going back and checking is a bit of a pain. You can get health there too. It's probably an easier spot to get it, honestly. You want these 3 notes here. Now this is what I do different than the world record video. And it's what the route actually is now. So you can grab all these notes, be really careful. Like try and grab as many as you can before you get hit again. And then... I initially started doing this because you can actually get it and have 2 health left at the end. Even if you miss one of the notes, you can have 2 health left at the end. And I think Taz only, it might be possible to grab all the notes and have 2 health left. But we've only got 1 health left here, and we want to make the jump over to Mumbo's, which has icy water in the middle. So you really need to have 2 health left here. You can go back to that beehive that I said was the second spot to grab health. It's not too far. It loses about 20 seconds though, so you don't want to be relying on that. I'll show you my strategy, then I'll show you the strategy that's apparently more consistent. So I wait for him to throw the snow. You can get health from a snowball. So I wait for him to throw the snowball, I jump and I ground pound. I think I'm out of his range, or not. I actually have a spot that I used to go to, but I've started not doing that. This is different on emulator as well. Just don't, if you're doing that strat, don't jump too early, otherwise he throws the snowball more up. You really need to make sure that he throws it before. Now this is generally the more accepted strat that I'll show you here, but I find that I have more risk of dying. You can just bear punch these snowballs, so all I can say about that is do it late rather than early. If you do it too early, let's see if I can show you. If you do it too early, you'll kind of move forward and the snowball will hit the back of you. That's why I don't do the bear punch strat. But if you do it late, you shouldn't have any problems. If you're just learning, probably do bear punch. It's just that I'm used to ground pound, so that's why I find it better. But yeah, I promise the ground pound's more consistent than it looked there. It's just a bit different on Emu. You want to peck as low as you can there, because if you... I just have to grab a health, sorry. If you, yeah, if you just talon trot into the water, without doing that, if you talon trot into the water, you have like a really slow get hit animation. So what you want to do is you talon trot and peck. And it's not slow at all. Well, it's slow, but it's not as slow. Peck as low as you can, because it loses a bit of time to peck really high, because you don't get much distance from pecking. Alright, provided you're doing my route, and provided you're doing this route, you should have 100 there. Just keep in mind it is quicker to get that note in TTC. Like, the route's changed since 6 months ago when the world record was. Alright, there's a little skip you can do here with the mumbo text, but these fire hitboxes are a real pain. I'll kind of show you how annoying they are. They're like, see how I could stand right in the middle of that and not get hit? They just suck. So what you want to try and do is get hit kind of towards the center where mumbo will trigger. Like that. But you want to get it in your death. Like that, and then mash LRB, and you should skip both of Mumbo's texts, and that'll skip it for later, and you don't lose any time because you're in the death animation anyway. So that's all for FP. Just make sure you had 100 notes there. There's a few backup notes you can get, but try not to rely on those too much. Alright, well that's all for that. Now we got another one of them, the same big bomb clip that we used to get into FP. We're using it for 450 skip here. See, this is a good thing about Sandcastle percent. In Sandcastle percent, you'd use a code to open Mad Monster Mansion, so you won't need to do any of this. That's why I think it's a bit better for beginners. Actually, it's really fun. I still love doing runs with it. Certainly not like just a beginner category, but it is a little bit nicer. See how that guy got in the way? So that's why I said to kill him earlier. You don't have to. That was bad. See, I was too far forward there when I went to land on it. Hold R, hold right. Wait till you're a little bit over the door and then beak bomb. You don't have to beak bomb, so don't do it if you're not consistent. I sometimes don't do it. Sorry if that nav was a little bit quick. So you want to hold right, pretty far right. You almost can't hold too far right, so don't be afraid of that. The only time where you can hold too far right is if you're already high enough that you could go back in bounds. But definitely don't, definitely hold it enough, because if you're not far enough right, you do void out. So that's, you go too far out of bounds and it warps you back. Yeah, so definitely hold quite, it's further right than it looks. I like to surface here because flapping over the water is a lot quicker than swimming under the water. So if you can, try and surface. Again, this is kind of bad movement because I'm getting that stop at the end of the slide, but I need to work on that. If you don't know, you can press Z to fill in the whole puzzle at once. Sure, you would have done a casual run of it though, so yeah. Get another Mumbo token here and a quick dive. This is a really fun quick dive. You can get pretty deep with that one. So yeah, again, I like to slide before I go into the water, and you want to let go of everything, every single button as soon as you're off the edge. I do go for that talon shot into loading zone there. For some reason, even though the camera's really janky, it's still consistent. Watch out for camera flips like that there too. There's a few that I forgot to mention. There's one after the first 3 notes in Mumbo. You can camera flip there if you're too far left, I think. There's a few more. I'll try and mention them as they come up. It's just that I forget about them because I have strats to avoid them now. Here's probably the easiest place to do that talon shot through a loading zone thing. So, yeah. It's, yeah, because the loading zone's so close to that node door. That, out of that warp, was an example of good movement, because you didn't even hear a trot before I started jumping. You want to jump as soon as possible. Yeah, another really good check to do is 9 jiggies when you do the MMM puzzle. Make sure you have 9 jiggies. I'll have to show you a backup as well. There's a backup jiggy you can sort of get, it's a bit inconsistent. Wow. Alright, so I'm not good at this. Stand there. There you go. I think that gate actually takes 2 eggs to hit, because I saw the Taz do 2 egg shots, so it must do. Alright. Yeah, so you can fire eggs at that gate, or you can peg it. Just make sure you get that gate. Alright, I've been meaning to try a new strat for this. You can like gold feather here or something. Yeah. It's quicker than a ground pound, I guess. Just really watch your gold feathers. You want to make sure that you don't run out. Gold feather through here. Grab the mumbo, grab the jiggy. That was bad because I lost an extra gold feather. I might actually redo that just so the count's good, because I used an extra one by mistake earlier. Yeah, really watch your gold feathers. You don't need the Jinjos in here. Also, health is really, really crucial in MMM. There's 2 kind of skips you do. Don't forget this note. Very important. You can go back and get it as a pumpkin. Don't do that, it's slower. I think the world record does that. But I timed it and it's definitely slower to get it as a pumpkin. I forgot what I was talking about. You can do the thing here with the talent shot in the loading zone, but I find it's really inconsistent. You'll see a lot of people do short hops in the talent shot jumping. It doesn't really matter if you do that. Like, just as long as you're jumping, it's fine. Another thing that I forgot to mention about the GameCube stick. I'll mention it not in the crucial part, I guess. Yeah, so this is kind of a skip to get to the well. Notice there, that's a really good illustration of the slope timer. Because I ground pounded instead of talent trotting there, all the time while I was over the slope, while I was ground pounding, that slope timer was ticking up. So at the end of my ground pound, I slipped off right away and I didn't have time to talent trot. That's a really good illustration of it. Another place where it's important to note is the roof in Click Clock Wood in winter of that little house thing. That's not in this run, but I remember it's really awful trying to get that. Because you high jump up onto it, then you got a talent trot, but since you're high jumping up onto it, it takes you a while to land and that slope timer hits full before you can talent trot. It's kind of bad design in a way, but yeah. Another thing I forgot to mention about GameCube sticks is I think Smasher32 made a video on them about joysticks for N64, and he mentioned a few issues with GameCube sticks. Just some of them have been fixed with later revisions of the sticks. The issue that you couldn't do circles has been fixed. So what the old ones used to do was every 3 frames they'd update, whereas the new ones update every frame. So that issue has been fixed. The only issue that's left really is sensitivity. Yeah. Sorry to stop MMM. I just thought I'd say that while I remembered it. Jump right off the corner there and hopefully you get to this roof. It's kind of inconsistent, but you get it most of the time once you get used to it. Roll and then flutter. I actually been trying out a new strat for that, which I'll show. I think it might actually be quicker. Ground pound there, and then you just get the recoil off. because in ground pound recoil you don't take full damage. The other thing is the other way is you just roll flutter onto that hedge, then jump down, but you have to flutter during the jump so you don't take full damage. Yeah. I don't know. That ground pound thing's cool though. That's just my personal path through those whip cracks, whip flashes. That's my personal path through there. I think a lot of other runners don't do it. Just a little note about grabbing that note. When you grab this one, you want to kind of hold right straight away so you get around that. It's kind of hard to do it. I just want to see if I have a save state right before the well. Nah, I don't. So, yeah. The issue with that third to last note in there is it's really hard to turn around after you go past that whip crack because just because you're behind the bucket and it's hard to see how far you've rotated. So yeah, it's just annoying, that little section. We get used to it though. All I can say is there's a point on that third to last note where you want to start holding right and not letting go of it, is all I can say. Don't try and kind of, you know, alternate between holding it and not holding it. There's just a point where you need to start holding it, and it's around when you get the note. Yeah, but that's my personal route through there. I think that's a bit of a quicker one. Don't press Z when you're coming out of that loading zone. Hold Z, because you'll see he's a little bit above the ground there. So if you press Z, you can just ground pound out of it. Yeah, so make sure you hold Z well before that loading zone reloads. You can make that jump without pecking, but yeah, it's much more consistent to peck. You don't want to get stuck under here, especially in NNM where health is crucial. So you can grab those 2 eggs if you want. At this point you want 1 more egg and it saves like not even that much time, so it doesn't really matter. I think the quickest way actually is to... I think Brad does some slide jumping in his TAS, but I think the quickest RTA way is to just jump across, take damage, then jump again. I could be wrong about that though. Here's a good spot to kill enemies if you're low on health. I'd probably recommend killing him if you're on 2 health, but I'm just going to keep going. Gold feather here. Grab that Mumbo token. Now, I didn't lose any health in that pool there, and I haven't actually figured that out yet. So there's a Mumbo token inside that whip crack, so you do have to go in there. Make sure you're using gold feathers so you kill it, and it drops health. So you're not going to lose any health in that pool, but if you come in 1 health, you could lose the health before you grab the honeycomb. So make sure you have at least 2 health for that pool. But yeah, sometimes you don't lose any health and you get the extra honeycomb. Sometimes you lose it then get a honeycomb, so you have no net loss. But yeah, make sure you have at least 1. And now that I'm on 3 health, I'm really happy for the rest of this level. Probably quicker to roll there actually, but don't worry if you have to go into talent drop. This is another room. Hold Z, don't press it, otherwise you'll ground pound when you come in. I think it's technically quicker to grab the Mumbo token first, but I only found that out last night. Maybe it's not there, I'm not 100% sure. Oops. Yeah, this roof is kind of bad. On console, this roof has a lot of lag on it. I think on emulator I'm not even noticing any lag, so there must just be not laggy on emulator. Alright, you can run under these. I think I forgot to mention that in Clankers, you can run under these, so yeah, just make sure you quick. And those can take 2 health, so if you're on 3 health, you probably don't need health. If you're on 2 health, you do need health, but I really wouldn't recommend trying to kill those because they could hit you and you could die. So yeah, don't use those to restore health is all I can say. It does save gold feathers, but yeah. I could walk straight through that fire just because the cutscene hadn't... Well, the cutscene only just finished, so I wasn't vulnerable yet. So if you're quick enough, walk through the fire. If you're not, I think you can use a gold feather. You make this jump to the chair, but that could happen, so yeah, be careful. That's another situation where if I pecked, like if I wasn't going to make the jump and you peck, then you can make the jump. Just really, really, really be careful not to wake Nappa. If you're really worried about it, just grab this Jiggy right now. But yeah. Anyway. Yeah, nothing worse than waking him up right now. So you'd lose like half a minute or something. This is the other Jiggy. You don't actually have to be out of Talon Trot to grab it in. Something to do with the cutscene, but there's no little flutter thing, so don't you grab this in Talon Trot. There's another strat. I'll try it once, but I didn't get it. If you like bear punch, then press A. You can hit the fly pad before you grab the Jiggy, and it's a jig skip, but it's not recommended to do that. Notice there'll be no flutter. Yeah, straight out of Talon Trot. Yeah, you can skip that Jiggy jig, but it's really not recommended RTA. Here's the last egg we used before Grunty. Just shoot that door. I'm not even sure how much quicker it is, but I'll trust Steve and Brad. Alright. This maze can be a pain. In Sandcastle percent, this is a lot easier with my route. This ghost is low enough to hit you, the other one isn't, so just worry about this one. It's the ghost on the left when you start it that is low enough to hit you. I think the other one can, but technically doesn't. Alright. Now this jump is awful. What you want to kind of do is jump on it when it's kind of at the top, and then you want to land on that hedge there. You expect to lose minutes to this when you start running, seriously. But don't stop trying it, because it's like so worth it once you get good. I really like a safe strat for this in concept. I really like the safe strat of jump there and then jump around, but I really wouldn't recommend trying it. So you do need 2 health for this part. I'm going to jump up there, peck across, and hit there. I will show the alternate strat. What else you can do is just come back out of this maze, climb this pipe wherever it is. You want to go over here. Now, you wouldn't have got this note earlier. This is the note that you have to climb the pipe after you get out of the cellar. If you don't want to do the beehive jump, you leave that note till now, and then peck over. Actually, I think you might be able to hit the hedge in Talon Trot and then jump to the roof. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, so back to this. Now, I've got that pretty consistent just there, but it's not usually that consistent for me. But I really would recommend trying it as you're starting out, because you lose 2 minutes at worst, and you know, you want to be learning the fast strats so you don't have to change your muscle memory if you start getting really good times. Anyway, I think that jumps in 100% too. Wait till you're above the whatever it's called, and then you can jump and then use that ground pound height thing. The slide down here looks scary, but I've never fallen off from that slide, so don't worry too much about it. Now, I like to hold myself right up against this corner and jump out and jump to the edge. Just be really careful, because if you land like on this part of the roof where it's a little bit lower, you'll actually take full damage, so be really careful. It wouldn't have mattered too much because I've got full health, but like knowing about the slope timer, imagine if you take full damage on here, that's ticking up the whole time that you take full damage, and then you can't get into a Talon Trot afterwards. So that's what's bad about it. You have to climb the roof again. I'm not sure if you can make that jump. You can make the jump to here without pecking, but it doesn't really matter. Just peck out of the Talon Trot. It's no biggie. Now, if you got the cutscene skip, you can just wake him up, grab these notes. Sorry, by the cutscene skip, I mean the thing in Frazizi Peak where we died and skipped this text. Yeah, if not, I think after the notes is the best time to do it. The LRB here. Yeah. Now, a little bit about the pumpkin movement. I might actually open up those watches for this again. again, this program that I'm using, I'll link in the description. It's got all these watches among a lot of other things that are really useful, like moon jump. Anyway, so we're watching velocity again, and if you start walking, it takes a little while to build up speed. You get to full speed, but it takes a while. If you jump, you're instantly there. It might have been a bad demonstration though. You're definitely quicker, for sure. Yeah, and you'll notice he doesn't slow down at the end of his jump. So, yeah, turning around you lose the speed as well. So you want to jump when you're turning, and jump when you're starting to walk. Yeah. Yeah, just make sure you're moving before you jump actually, now that I'm looking at it. Anyway, yeah, so just be sure of those things. Jump when you turn around. Doesn't matter if you keep jumping or not. See, it's always at 500 whether or not you keep jumping as a pumpkin. Does matter in Talon Trot though. Be careful not to do that. I think that was something to do with the emulator, me not being used to it. Yeah, that's actually really bad if that happens, so don't do that. I'm a lot more well, I've never fallen there on console, so I'm a lot more consistent. Alright. Sorry about that. Another note is, do not get the logo jiggy or the logo mumbo token. Like that window there, don't go in there as a pumpkin. The world record does, and it's a loss of 25 seconds-ish. So you'll... Yeah, don't do it. Don't just watch the world record route and think, because if you wait till the end, you'll see he does have one jiggy left when he opens Click Clockwood, and he does have one mumbo token left when he opens, when he gets into the B, so that's where those come from. Alright, so that's MMM. I'll post all my game times and my real times so you can compare with that. This is a good place to test whether or not actually, now that I think about it, going over those, I think your velocity is a little bit faster when you're going over a ledge. Apparently it's quicker to walk down here or bob down here than it is to jump slightly, so we'll trust that. Again, you'll notice I'm jumping out of all the warps just to gain that speed instantly. You want to grab the mumbo token behind here. Go. Oh, there's another little reference point that you can use to know when you can transform. I'll talk about that in CCW. Alright, so basically, I'll see if I can get it. There's like a little skip you can do here, and I have no idea why it works, so I'm just gonna get this. Try not to have to get him, because it's a bit, obviously it wastes time and a gold feather. So I didn't get it that time. There's some weird thing that can happen where this switch actually goes down during that ground pound, and I don't understand it. So yeah, it's happened to me a few times though. Anyway, for some reason I can't get it on emulator, but the proper way to do that, this is, so let me close those watches. The proper way to do that, well, it's not the fastest, but the way that we understand how to do this is you want to bounce there, then like mash Z and you can get another one, another ground pound. I'm not exactly sure why it's not working. I think it might be emulator, but yeah, just be careful with that. So yeah, just make sure you hit this switch and you'll see this cutscene. You want to do a reset after this, but make sure that it goes back to the room. If it doesn't, it gets into a state where the water level isn't raised, but the switch is hit. So it's basically a progress block. So definitely make sure you see this room again before you reset here. After the reset, it'll be back in English, as well. So yeah, I'm going to press the reset button. I hope that this doesn't actually... I hope this saves. But yeah. The saving happens when you go through a loading zone. So my theory on why you have to reset late for that is because it has the switch hit, then when it loads the Rusty Bucket Bay lobby, it saves that the switch was hit. Then it raises the water level, and then it doesn't save that till it loads the crypt again. That's my theory. Don't forget you can hold start here. I start holding it around now. Yeah, you want to pick English here. Unless you're brave enough to do Furnace Fun in German, but I don't even know if it's quicker or not. A good game time, sub 40. I get really excited when I get a sub 40. Sub 40 is almost world record pace, like, yeah. I think it might even be. Anyway, let me load this up again. Yeah, knowing that loading zones are where it saves is really useful for practice. You can practice almost all of Treasure Trove Cove. Like all them jiggy grabs and flying without the game auto saving if you don't go into Nipper at the end. So yeah, that's really useful. We want to get this. I don't usually flip the camera around. This second eye, you want to hit it and then make it back to the nose, and you'll be over the jiggy during the cutscene. So that's a little... You get the jiggy during the cutscene. If you have a flash cart or something, then make sure, if you want to run this game using a flash cart, don't run the power ROM on an NTSC console. Do not do that. Yeah, the timing's weird. Same goes for running an NTSC ROM on a power console. But it's really useful for practice because it only saves if you reset, so you can do a whole level, just turn the power off and on, it won't have saved. So you can have a file up to each level. That's what I do for practice. But I play on a real cart for runs. Mumbo token behind here. You want to try and jump into the cauldron. I'm not sure how much time it saves, or if it saves time. It's just cool. Mainly because if you do this triggery, if you trigger the cutscene, you notice I'm in Talon Trot here. I'm not in Talon Trot there, so the extra time to walk over to the cauldron, I think, is slower. So if you can, you want to grab the Mumbo token, jump into the cauldron. You'll notice Banjo's actually there in the cutscene now. See, he's just standing there. That's a cool little glitch to do with that. Hasn't had a use yet. I hope one day it'll be an 8-10 skip, but we'll see. Yeah, but you'll notice there's no movement after the cutscene, so you can just like go right into the cauldron. You fall in there, because when you come back into the room, it puts you where you were when you triggered the cutscene. So, yeah, that's the way that works. So, in the cauldron's quickest, I reckon. Again, the Talon Trot cancel for a note door. Don't bother Talon Trotting into here, because you're underwater. Same as even if you're not underwater, because there's a short thing. It doesn't say, like, don't Talon Trot into this room ever, basically. There's a slow strat and a fast strat for this room. I'll show the slow strat first. You can get good times with this slow strat. It doesn't lose much time, and it's a lot more consistent. I think I only started doing this, the fast strat, when I was about to get world record in Sandcastle, so yeah. Alright, so I'll go over this whole switch bizzo after, but the fast strat is... Notice I'm surfacing earlier so that I get faster movement with the flaps. I like my camera here. People can Talon Trot jump to this pole, but I find a high jump more consistent, even though I missed it. And then my camera's a little bit where I don't want it here, but I'll give it a go. Talon Trot off and jump. Peck. There you go. So the issue with doing that attempt is if you don't get it, you fall in the water. You have to come back here, line up your jump again, get up there, try it again, for some reason it just clicked for me one day and I started getting it every time, but before that I was really inconsistent, so I don't know what it is. It's just try and make sure your camera was where mine was as you're exiting the water. My camera wasn't optimal when I was on the pole. But yeah, peck this, or do whatever with that. So there's a little skip you can do here. It's similar to a quick dive. And if you get a talon drop, I will get it to show you. If you get a talon drop, which is really hard to get. I got the duck. There you go, the talon trot. It sends you to the bottom, so that's a lot quicker. But it's really hard to get that. And then make sure you press B, otherwise you'll start to paddle up to the top. Yeah, so it saves time if you get the talon trot either way. If you get the talon trot and slide off the edge, it'll save the most time. That's what I did there. But I just try and get the talon trot. I don't care if I get off the edge or not. If I get the talon trot, I'm happy. There's an extra gold feather in here. I'm going to get that because 6 is kind of low here. You need ideally 8 for click clock wood. There's another one that there's another 2 that you can get, but they go missing mysteriously. I got that talon trot there. You don't. It does save time, but it's not as important as that other one. Alright. We want to skip this note door, 640 note door. This skip's not as bad as like all that whole beak bomb stuff, but this is really consistent if you have a setup. It's really annoying if you don't. First thing we want to do is flip the camera back around properly. And I'll show you that. You want to jump out a little bit and pull back in. Some people do that before the switch, and I'm always really scared I'm going to fall off if that happens, so I hit the switch first. So it doesn't matter if you fall in the water there. You want to flip the camera around there, basically. Now, keep the camera like this. If you do happen to go back into the pipe, go back and flip your camera around again, because it just don't. It doesn't work if you go in the pipe. So flip your camera around. Now, you want to hook onto this bit, so you want to jump, and I mash up on the joystick, and then you go. I mash it like 8 times, and don't go and bounce there. That's weird. Yeah. So don't hold up. Like you can. I'll show you what happens if you hold up. You do get a little bit hooked on there, but then you just fall straight off. You mash up. I can mash it all the way up to there. Like I can mash it. I'm not sure if you can hear me mashing, but. Yeah, that was like 5 taps there. Yeah, mashing is the key. A lot of people say it's a gradual hold, and I don't disagree with that. It's just I learned to do this trick when I was using a GameCube stick, and it's really hard to be sensitive with those. So mashing worked for me, and it works for me on a real first-party stick as well. So if you want to do it granularly, you can, but mashing works just as good. Yeah, so I'll do that one more time. It's really, I don't even worry about it anymore. It's the kind of trick that once you have a setup for it, like mashing, it's fine. Hopefully you can see that number, that 91 mashing. That's how you can tell where I'm mashing. Flip the camera around, you want to do one flap and you want to jump into the back of the door. Don't, I lied, I'm going to do it one more time. Just to show the nav. I'll show you what happens if the camera goes in here. Bit. Alright, now look at this. How are you going to know where you're going? I'm pressing L and R, and you probably could get it, but then that could happen, you know. So that's why you don't go into the pipe. Alright, so flip the camera around with your LC button. Now, this could happen if you fall off. There's some weird telediving thing that could happen as well. But anyway, so you like one flutter, and this loading zone is massive, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. As long as you get anywhere in that green area, you're fine. I'd say a good 640 skip is just not having to hit that switch again. So long as you don't have to hit that switch again, you don't really need to worry about it. There's sort of a strat for doing this whiplash tunnel, crack whiplash tunnel, but I'm not 100% sure on it. You go left here, I know that much. You go left here, then you go right here, and then that happens. I get hit every time. So you definitely go left at the start, and you probably are best off to jump too. Yeah. It's either yeah, something to do. I think I go right before the vertical one, but usually I do take a health. But there's a place that you can get a health back in Click Clock Wood anyway, really easily, so. 2 health is a bit annoying, but it's not awful. You can make up for it. So, there's this little dot here on the ground. We're going to do a jump up to the leaf above Banjo. There's a little dot here on the ground. You kind of want to be behind that. So maybe the top of his shadow's on the dot or something. That was too far forward. That was great. Now notice I got hooked on the leaf there and then I got up anyway. That was because I was mashing A. So when you get the higher jump, you do want to be mashing A. I'm going to go stay a little bit earlier so you can see me walk into the setup. You do want to exit talent shot here with your B. Now that's a good spot for me. I like that. So that was a bit too far forward then. There you go. You do want to grab that gold feather. Make sure you grab it. Just because gold feathers are really tight on this route as well. So yeah, try and grab these 3 feathers. I have 13 feathers at the moment. I get a few more, just a little bit. But yeah, you need at least 4. Well, I think you technically don't need any feathers for Grunty, but don't. You need 4 basically. 3 if you do the quick kill at the end. But yeah, like I would recommend, if you have less than like 16 feathers going into Grunty, restore, especially if you're just starting out. My PB has like 20 feathers and I restore just because I was scared of losing it, and also you forget how many you have as well. It's easy to forget that. Alright, so I got the talent drop before this cutscene, but since this cutscene goes through a loading zone, i.e. loads a different room, I don't keep that talent drop through it. So it's kind of fun little play around thing to try and get it, but don't worry about it. If you don't get it, it's not important. Try and grab the gold feather there. It's a later jump than it looks like to grab it. Again, it doesn't really matter. If you don't grab it, I would recommend that you actually grab it before you go into the cauldron, and then you can just jump straight into there. If you've forgotten the Mumbo token earlier, grab it up here. But you should get it earlier all the time. I think it might be a little bit quicker to get it now, but like, I don't want to have forgotten. A lot of people do a quick dive there. Quick dive we have talked about. A lot of people do a quick dive there, but I think it's not worth it, because if you jump, you go low enough that you get into the pipe, so I don't see the point in it, and I don't do it, but don't be afraid if you want to. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing it. There's nothing wrong with not doing it either. Alright, so if you didn't want to talk to Brentilda in German, either before you hit the eyes and get the Clanker's switch thing, or right now you can talk to her. So she would tell you answers. This one, I think this one actually tells you answers 4 through 6 on the calculator. So I think she tells you the one that has Hog Breath, Parrot, Puke and Ghastly Grey, whatever those questions are. Another tip with this calculator is when you're searching a string, search for the keywords in the question, not the answers, because yeah, it just doesn't work. It doesn't search the answer, it searches the question. That might have been in the tutorial anyway. Anyway, so that's a backup Brentilda. That's the one in the world record. I do need to time that one. It might end up being quicker than German. Make sure you have 15 jiggies here, I guess. That's all the jiggies for the run. We should have 33 in total. And don't forget this Mumbo token. That should be a 16th one. Around that pink cauldron is where I check my number. But there's like 2 extras you can get in Click Clock Wood right at the end, so I don't even look down at it anymore. I do look at my jiggies in MMM though. Like when I'm opening Mad Monster Mansion, I see if there's 9. The route is go through this pipe, but I'm going to show you a backup jiggy you can get if you miss this. And it's really hard. This jiggy that I'm about to show you, when we're coming through this room earlier on in the run, it's actually quicker to get this jiggy than to do the longest jiggy in this route is the Clanker's Witch Switch. So if you could figure out a consistent strat to get this jiggy, this would be quicker than that. The second longest is Conga. Personally, I'd cut that out because I hate Conga. Anyway, you can clip into this neck. It's just a silly little thing that I don't understand. You just gotta walk up against it weirdly. So this is that was really quick to grab that, by the way. So don't expect it to be that quick. If you could get the clip in under 3 seconds, then it would be worth doing it at 80%. But yeah, that's a backup jiggy. One time I was on a really good pace run and I'd actually forgotten a jiggy, so I went and got that one, and I was still sort of on good pace because I got a quick clip. Yeah, if someone knows a good setup, please tell me. I really want to get that jiggy in 80%. All this movement here, you're gonna have lots of practice at it because of FFM setup, because you have to do all this progression through the layer. Alright, now we're gonna do the last Banjo level. I would recommend a split. Like you split at the end of Mad Monster Mansion, I hope. I'd recommend a split right here, and also one coming into Mad Monster Mansion and one coming into FP. There's no real hard tricks between Mad Monster Mansion and here, but it's just, there's no hard tricks in between it, but it's a 6-minute 35 segment, so if you have some bad movement there, then you can mess up your gold split for Click Clock Wood. Like you could have a really good Click Clock Wood and bad movement there and you wouldn't get a gold split, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I like to have the extra split there. Speaking of which, I'm going to split the video.